Hey everybody, before we get started, just remind you this episode brought to you by our patrons like Adam DeHarp, FGO Comics, Architect 10, Blacklist OG, Carlos, Qua, Jeremy Vasquez, Kylie Denton, Legendary Boss Hunter, Liam Kessler, Rogue Robin, Shawnee P, some guy named Bob, Sodason0424723, and Zach Reed. If you like what you want to see more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other guys and where we have us out. Thank you for your support, everybody. Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk FGO Wanted, the show where we let you know if you want to roll a 5-star. Okay, so, it's been a little bit. We're doing a normal Wanted. It's normal. It's a brand new servant. It's not like a rerun. It's not like a redux. There's anything going on. However, I will immediately preface this by saying this one will be slightly weird because of reasons that will become clear shortly. But, hey, if this is your first FGO Wanted we're doing, this is basically a show where Hi Omega, will talk about a servant, usually a 5-star. We also sometimes cover limited 4-stars or other units if it comes up and stuff, though those don't do super great. So if you want to see more of those, watch them more. Anyway, we talk about a unit. Generally, we talk about a character's real-life history, their lore with a capital L and fate, talk about their mechanics, their rarity, not their star rarity, but how often they get rate-ups, because that's very important when you get them. And we throw in some bits and bobs about like team comps and stuff in there, the whole rigmarole. But since today we're talking about Sitonai, there's a couple of weird things we need to cover. First of all, the name, actually, because this is derived from the Ainu language, which doesn't have a writing system, there's some scholarly debate exactly on how you're supposed to pronounce this. The phonemes could be Sitonai, or could be Shitonai, since one of those things sounds like a swear, and usually her name is romanized with just the SI, for the sake of my brain, because we already know how ungodly awful I am at pronunciation of silent letters and whatnot. We're going to say Sitonai, just because I'm going to be looking at it spelled Sitonai on my screen a lot, and listen, I can't be trusted, okay? This is why you shouldn't do weird pronunciations or phonemes or anything, romanizers. If you're changing the Latin letters, just write it how you fucking mean. Anyway. The other thing is, actually, we should probably kind of sort of start, usually we start with real life, but we should probably start with Fate lore first, actually, and kind of jump right into that, because Sitonai is weird. So, Sitonai is technically is an alter ego, obviously, but is a high servant specifically, similar to the Sakura 5, who we see in-game as characters such as Meltrillis, Passion Lip, the upcoming King Protea, where they have a core of a person. For the Sakura 5, it's their Sakura faces. Their core is BB-based for the most part, which is based on the Sakura AI, which blah, 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 blah. CCC stuff. But for Sitonai, her baseline is Illya, as in the Fate Stay Night Illya, not Prisma Illya. That's an important deductor. And honestly, from her behavior when she shows up as a brief cameo in... Well, not really necessarily a brief cameo, but she shows up for bits partway through the story of Lost Belt 2, hence why she is normally story-locked to Lost Belt 2, and why you need to complete Lost Belt 2 to do the event, which she premieres more fully in, Oniland, which we can expect probably, because it has the subtitle about Kamui Gold, and so on, we can probably expect some further elaboration of her character in that, but for the moment, while her Saint Graph is registered as Sitonai because Sitonai is the heroic spirit most expressed in her, she's composed of several origins, and in general acts mostly Illya-like. For instance, her companion is a bear as a servant, and it should be a dog. Either way is called Shiro, because she thinks that name is good. Wild, I know. So, there's a decent amount of Illya flavorings on top of this character, who we see there. But so we need to establish that she's a high servant before we talk about all of her background and stuff, because of reasons. Anyway, she shows up in Lost Belt 2, obviously why she's a story lock. We won't go into any further deets there. Play the damn chapter already. And will be one of the focus characters in an upcoming event, obviously. So, there's not really super too much to get into other than, again, reminding everybody about the high servant concept, fusing multiple Saint Graphs together to build something stronger, weirder, wilder. Usually high servants are also alter egos, at least in FGO. And to specify, the three components are Sitonai, who, like we said, is the foremost on the Saint Graph, but also her other components are Freyja, the Norse goddess, who has some other spellings of her name, and also Louhi. You have no idea if I'm pronouncing it right, who is a character from Finnish myth. She is a evil queen and sorceress in some of their major epic poems, and pretty common in fairy stories. You may also recognize her as an occasional boss in Final Fantasy, is probably where the FGO guys heard of it. There's a couple of different elements in there. So let's pivot to real life. Usually we do this first, but we'll pivot there now. Because, hey, if you need to know anything about Illya's character in this, just go read Fate's Day Night, or watch any of those animes, or... Anyway. Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys. While admittedly, I'm not, like, an expert researcher, I do my due diligence usually. On American internet, it's very hard to find any sources for Sitonai. This is because of the aforementioned, the Ainu only had an oral history tradition. This story was apparently told to some Japanese and Chinese tellers who wrote it down, and even there is some debate whether it's even a really real myth. Not that matters to Fate, per se. You know, it could be a fake myth. So I don't really have any, like, direct sources myself. I just have the rough outline, kind of as related by the game, and a couple of sources I could find. The short version of the legend, which isn't very long, is it's just a folktale about a village girl, Sitonai. She lives in a village in Hokkaido. There's an evil snake eating all the village girls, because that's what evil snakes do, aka dragons. That'll come back later. And she volunteers to go instead, and accompanied by her noble dog, she goes and she kills Snake Man Dragon. And that's the short version. No need to bog you down with, like, a super epic retelling, because we've got some other stuff to talk about. So that's your first step for Sitonai. For Freyja, this is one of those things where it's like, there's way so much, especially since she's not a primary character in Sitonai Saint Graph. She's there, she has some influence on the story. Her knowledge kind of informs the other 3 people involved. Sitonai herself kind of describes it that way in Lost Belt 2, that, like, she is kind of herself, but also is constantly being yelled at by Freyja, Louhi, and Sitonai about what to do. I won't give you the huge breakdown, but Freyja's kind of a big deal. She's associated with Valkyries. She rules over her own heavenly field, who gets half the people who die in battle, associated with things like love, beauty, fertility, war, gold, magic. Filling a lot of that general power woman goddess role. I'm not going to necessarily directly compare her to, like, Ishtar, but there's some Proto-Indo-European shenanigans going on, which, for all I know, they could be connected, you know, vaguely. Not in a direct way, mind you. We'll get that whenever we talk about the base Ishtar, but just in general, filling that kind of archetypal, you know, big, scary, famous lady who gets in lots of trouble and causes lots of trouble. Though she is married to a guy, though he is occasionally absent, which means she cries for him a lot, which is adorable. So there's a lot of kind of other stuff going on there, but we don't really need to get into it per se. Just know that she's kind of a big deal. And again, on English-ass internet, Louhi is not a super well-known, but she is a major character in the pronunciation Kalevala, which is an epic poetry, which is kind of, it's basically a compiling of classic, you know, Finnish oral folklore. Running theme, guys. Might even be why she's related to Sitonai, because here's the thing. Freyja's a, you know, positive deity. She's part of the people keeping things ticking. You know, member of the Vanir, who are allied with the Aesir. Sitonai is a culture hero. Louhi's an evil queen, so it's a little weird why they may be connected, though it's possible that because apparently there's some different characters who aren't necessarily separate, she could also be related to Loviatar, the goddess of death. Maybe they could be the same character. Dunno. That's even a speculation on some of the reading I've done. But yeah, Louhi is an antagonistic character, an evil witch queen, does stuff, changes shapes, has powers, does things. Related to lots and lots of classic folklore in that region. And like I said, has been used as the name of a boss in a lot of the Final Fantasies. Again, probably where they got that from. Not to say that they don't do their research, but that's probably where they heard of it first, you know? So, there's your kind of real-life short version. And we've already kind of talked about how this character is related to Fate. So, let's jump into the part that doesn't involve lots of speculation on oral folklore. Actually, heck, honestly, you could say that's kind of tied to Freyja, too. We only have like 2 or 3 original sources for Norse mythology, all of which are post-Christianization. Myths are weird, guys. Please write things down. It makes it easier for me and everybody. Don't let your language die. But yeah, so, there's a decent amount of historical and mythological ambiguity here. So let's go to things which are decidedly unambiguous, right? Mechanics. So, Sitonai is a 5-star alter ego, of which is a decent amount. Where does she lie on those core stats? Well, she's got the same attack as Kiara, which is a little squishy. Kiara not known as a hard hitter, but does have slightly less HP, which is a little sad. That said, that's still more HP than most other alter egos. Funny how that works out. So, you know, got an okay spread. She's got a Saber-style deck, quick, arts, buster. High NP gen, you know, considering only 2 stars in there. But she's got kind of that combo because, spoilers about that NP, she has a 6-hit single-target arts. So, yeah, the game is trying to kind of nuance her ability to gain NP and work off that without making her crazy good at everything. Loops don't come for free. And before anybody says, but what about Double Scotty? That's not free. 2 people had to work their butts off to get that set up. So, oops. Anyway, overall, decent hit counts on her other stuff. That quick card, for instance, with this NP gen stat will do quite well. And extras especially, very spicy. All in all, got some decent around there. Average star gen, middling star absorption. I believe around 100-ish is the typical for alter egos, and I'm not going to bog down the show by double-checking. I feel like that's correct. If it's not, you can let me know. There are some extra classes where that's wildly different, but most of them are usually in the same rough part. I'm not even going to try and say what her NP name is, but it exists. And it is a single-target arts, powerful attack on one enemy. If the enemy is a dragon, which, to be fair, are usually cavalry. Sometimes you get that occasional Lancer dragon, so your Siegfried or Sigurd can shine, but still, decently, they're cavalry. She will drain them 1 NP bar, pretty typical for art stuff, and then the overcharge effects are reduce the enemy's defense for 3 turns, and reduce the enemy's critical chance for 3 turns, both starting at 20%. So, single target, obviously, so a bit of a damage dealer, but has the typical arts stall kind of strategy there. If your enemy is a dragon, which that's probably why you invested in bringing Sitonai in your composition. Sorry, I lost my word there. Got a little think about stuff. So in your team comp, if you take a Sitonai, you're probably planning on there being a dragon boss. So gives you the charge down. Great. No chance on that. Just if they are dragon trait, it happens. And reduce the enemy's defense. That sets up further hits and grinding. You know, the gradual grinding kind of art strategy. And reduces crit chance. That's pretty popular with art stuff. The enemy doesn't crit you, so your strategy can keep going. Let's talk about those skills. So, active skills. Her first skill is a self-invul, 1 turn. Hard defenses, great stuff. And then also she does a team damage cut. 3 times, 3 turns to all allies. So for 3 turns, for 3 times, you get damage cut. It's not super big. It only goes up to 500, but still, 3 times, 500 damage cut. Very solid for all allies. A very decent defensive skill. That means you can give her a hard defense, and then all your allies get a decent chunk of damage cut. Very popular, and I'm sure it'll be useful in certain story maps where you're no longer able to get access to Mash's cheap and easy damage cut for story stuff. And in not story stuff, synergizes very well with normal Mash. Her second skill is an art steroid. Pretty typical stuff. Increase your art's effectiveness for 3 turns. 20 to 30%. Not atypical for a 3-turn buff. Apply debuff immune to yourself also 1 time 3 turns. Pretty handy. You know, debuff immune is a fairly decent effect. Though I will say, she's already got magic resistance and Core of the Goddess, so that's mostly for if you know there's a guaranteed debuff coming. Still can be decent. And the art steroid, you know, when you've got a boss killer like this, right, Sitonai is a single target unit. She's meant to kill bosses. That steroid effect isn't out of the question. You like it. Final skill is a little weird. So the effect that will always happen is you get NP gauge increase, 20 to 30%. Honestly, because she's not AoE, you're probably not going to use this with like K-Scope or something, but this can be used to finish off a battery for a loop, or if you're doing a fast charge to get back in there and hit that NP faster. Nothing wrong with that, especially in arts comps, which love NP gen anyway. And then she's got a chance-based buff, which is 60 to 80% to generate 10 stars per turn for 3 turns and increase your attack by 20% flat. So a self-charisma for 3 turns with a chance. Now, why is this chance-based? Because Chloe exists. Chloe has a buff that improves other Illya's ability to do buffs. So basically, I think it's like a 20% buff increase. Also, that 80% means she's compatible with other units like Oz and whatnot. I believe it. Yeah, isn't that Oz's protection of Pharaoh? That's also what Gil does, I believe, is increase your buff success rate. There's a couple of supporters or soft supports who do that kind of thing. You can increase your buff success chance to give her 20% attack and 10 stars per turn. The stars per turn are kind of eh. Sitonai doesn't really have any additional critical support, but she does have a decent star weight. And, with 2 buster cards and 2 arts cards even, you won't go wrong with those crits, but those are probably kind of just going out there. 10 stars per turn, though, is a decent number. The 20% attack, though, combined with that 30% art steroid for 3 turns, it means if you can get the buff to proc, you're looking at a very decent increase to her offensive stats, which, as we noted, is good because her attack is a little squishy. It's the same as Kiara's. Though, obviously, because of some different passives and stuff, she may hit differently. So, yeah, it's pretty important. It's a little shaky that's, chance-based. You obviously have a means to fix that, hopefully, with that rerun also coming up early next year. So if you weren't playing or missed out on your chance to get Chloe, keep your eyes alive. Get in there. Get the action. But yeah, those are your core skill stats. Pretty basic stuff for a hitter. NP steroids, battery, hard defenses. A very broad skill. Nothing too flashy. But all in all, it's very solid, other than the fact that her final skill has that chance-based effect. Passive skills. Hey, guess what? She's a high servant. That means she has a shitload. Yeah. So's magic resistance C and goddess core B, which means that her total debuff resist is, hold on, math, 15 plus 20. So, what is that, 37? 37.5, technically. So, you've already got a, 1/3 of the time you will just ignore debuffs. Great. Combined with her ability to be debuff immune, that means she's pretty resilient to debuffs. That's pretty good. Does have that also damage plus effect on Goddess Core. Does a little, about extra 200 damage. Pretty decent. As kind of befitting the fact that she's probably because she's part Louhi. Though also it could be the Illya bits. Territory Creation A. Arts cards punch a little bit harder. It's not EX, but A is good. And Item Creation B debuffs stick. That's primarily going to be on her NP-related debuffs, since she doesn't really assign any others. It's not a necessary skill, but I believe the way it works is that means that assume basically that things that just inflict debuffs, like they don't say like 50% chance or 500% chance, they just 100% chance. That means that based on the enemy's debuff resistance, they might miss. Item Creation increases that chance to kind of counter that, so it makes it more likely that her defense down and critical down will stick. That's okay. That's not the most vital part of her kit, but obviously if you're doing that kind of repeated NP slamming, that's going to be good. That skill blank there is her High Servant. That's just a fluff thing. That does nothing. It's just there to let you know she's a High Servant. Let's check out our new sidebar really quick. Ascension materials and stuff. And by checkout, I mean I'll just point out that her Ascension and skill materials are very basic. As an extra class, she requires a mix of things. Specifically, she wants Caster and Berserker things. So if I get lucky with some tickets or something, I'm going to be up shit creek because Caster gems, blue gems especially. Listen, guys, I got a lot of Casters and I love gems. But that may or may not be a problem for other people, depending. It's fairly balanced. There's no weird Ascension items. You just do need 24 total statues. Even her skill requirements, none of them are new. Though obviously stuff like Hearts and Lanugos can be in high demand, so you got to watch out for that. But it's not super rough. Nothing really weird or ultra modern. Good on them for not going crazy and making her eat like permafrosts or something. So let's talk team comp. This is another really popular thing. Team comp and CEs. People like to talk about these. Well, for CEs, obviously, anything I'm gonna say that ups arts effectiveness or ups NP She's got a battery, so something like, Dive to Blue doesn't work exactly, but could help if you've got a 20% charger in there. In general, though, I'm thinking you're going to want to go for big swings. Her battery levels aren't huge, so don't go for Black Grail, maybe, unless you've got some other battery stuff going on. But you could combo her if you're doing other stuff, like taking somebody from 50 to 100% with, say, Waver. You could also put her in there, because she'd be able to kind of work off some of that with her own maxed battery skill. That's 30%. That also leads to team comp kind of stuff. So you can go with the 50% battery options for CEs. Just in general, I'm going to say probably, though, you're going to want to go with arts or NP damage. Slap something like Formal Craft on her, get in there, and you're going to want your arts cards to generate more NP and to hit harder, especially that NP. And that's pretty typical for arts-focused servants. No need to really get fancy. Sitonai is not very fancy. She just has a lot of good things going for her. Team comp, already mentioned Waver. He's a generic. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's got a very decent starting battery, gives her damage plus damage cut, and could improve those criticals if she's generating those stars per turn. Tamamo is a choice also. NP up in the future. In the future, right? I still don't have a Tamamo, so the timeline of buffs gets nebulous to me. I think we still don't have that one yet. Or do we have that one? Do we have her curse buff? I don't know. Anyway, but the arts up and the healing will help Sitonai, because Sitonai does have a fairly decent HP pool. And obviously with her damage cut and invul, she can be a little slow to lose that, so the healing will go a long way. And just in general, work all that. Her skill cooldowns have a couple of them are min 6, not min 5. So you can't go wrong with that skill cooldown effect on Tamamo either. It's a really good effect. And obviously in future, Caster Artoria will blend very well with this for reasons, but that's future stuff that will come up in a future wanted. That's your high level. Other than that, just generically, depending on what kind of boss you're facing, the beauty of Alter Egos is, remember, they get bonus damage against all cavalry class. So, and foreigners. Though I don't believe there are any dragon foreigners, but you might just go for the other effects. But basically, depending on what you're facing, you will mix in different units. So if you're facing, like, assassins, you might go, oh, let's slap Caskill in there. He's a great, half support kind of arts thing, right? It's pretty good. Has his variety of buffs that will help her out. If you're facing casters, you might, partner up with other units and riders. CME will come out and kind of have a Waver-like effect with rider teams. And, in general, there's some other stuff going on. You could even possibly pair her with Kiara if you have one, because Kiara is AoE, right? But one of her effects is to reduce the enemy's arts resistance and to reduce their defense, right, with her skill upgrades, if you've got all those upgrades. So that combos pretty well into, like, clearing out earlier waves or defeating mobs, adds, and then have Sitonai clean up a boss. And in general, that's the direction you're going to want to go for. Sitonai as a single target alter ego is going to be your main damage dealer on a boss. Now, there is the fact that she can hit a variety of enemies, alter egos, are good against 5 other classes, so very strong showing, very Swiss Army knife. Okay, I think that's all that stuff. So, let us check in with the Rarity. Now, obviously, Sitonai is story-locked, which in some ways is worse than what would you say? Worse than being limited if you've got a good limited. I talked about this in the Gil Wanted not too long ago, where Gil gets raid-ups all the friggin' time. So much so that, and they're so frequent and similar that I, forgot one, because it looked exactly like another raid-up he had, right? But being story-locked means you can only roll them during story otherwise, and they may not get a lot of raid-ups. So, big one, Sitonai is going to get a raid-up in the Oniland event coming up, which will have a rerun next year. So there's 2 solid chances for that. She is a female servant, so she will be on banners associated with Valentine's. And I believe she may have a standalone raid up there as a female SSR. And additionally, next anniversary 4, which will be mostly Lost Belt themed, she will be part of the rotation for that as well, mixed in with all the other Lost Belt 2 guys. So keep an eye out if you're looking for a good day when you're going to be rolling for Da Vinci Small. I'll look forward to that one as well. So that's only 5 raid-ups in the history of the game so far. Now, admittedly, we're in, year 3. But it's still decent to observe I just read year 4, I guess. Still, it's not infrequent, but after Valentine's this year, she hasn't had any other raid-ups in JP and might not. So, obviously, we will keep our eyes out for what we're doing, but keep an eye out. Actually, hold on, let me double check also. Sometimes my sources are not all universally updated. I'll check the 5th anniversary as well to see if there's no raid-up. Yeah, okay, so I think the raid-up was just... Yeah, that's right. They went a little slim this year. It's it was just Artoria Castor and Da Vinci. So obviously, Sitonai may be possible in the lucky bag because that's got some stuff going on. But yeah, it's not a focus. All right, so there we go. There's Sitonai, new alter ego. Got some interesting stuff going on. Also, an opportunity for some references to classic Illya stuff if you're more familiar with that character than with Prisma or anything. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go whole hog because I got other stuff going on. But it'll be interesting to get. Alter Egos are always very useful because, as I said, they have class advantage against 5 classes. But yeah, it's not bad. Be sure to check her out if you're interested. All right, so that'll be Wanted for this time. We'll be seeing you whenever Lost Belt 3 comes out, I believe. Which shouldn't be too long. We might do some interesting things there. But I think that the first one will probably be pretty normal. But yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. I've already talked a lot about this. Be sure to give this video a like if you liked it. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. You can also hit us up on our Discord. That link is, as always, in the description and on our channel page. If you're new here and haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you can always get our latest videos, like more Let's Talk FGO Wanted, or our main podcast, Let's Talk FGO. You can also hit that bell for notifications. You always know when we post a new video, because I gotta be honest, I don't know when this is going to get posted as of when I'm shooting it. I'm shooting it because FGO sometimes likes to be weird, and they've pre-announced the event, so yeah, notifications are a great way to know when a video gets posted if it's going to be posted weird, as Wanteds often are. And of course, like I said at the front of the show, you can consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early, and lots of other goodies. You can also join our channel as membership, get access to emotes and membership badges, and occasional little bits and bobs of posts. It's a fun time. Also supports us. All right, I'm gonna get out of your hair, guys, and leave you to contemplate the troubles of collating and canonizing oral tradition. Bye, everybody.